Welcome to Scribbles and Scripts. So you've learned about loops. Amazing. You've coded a couple yourself. You're getting the basics. Loops are one of those building blocks that never really go away. They look predictable, and they are. What isn't immediately clear, though, is the order in which each bit is executed. Here, let me show you what I mean. I've got a nice, pretty standard-looking loop for us here. We can divide this into its constituent parts. We've got the bit where we're defining our counter, our boundary check to continue the loop, our counter increment bit, and the body, aka all the code that we want to run on each iteration. What we really care about is these three expressions, and when they are run in relation to the body code inside of the loop. The counter initialization here actually gets run just once, before the loop even starts. So in terms of how our code runs, this happens outside of the loop. The execution of the loop actually starts with this boundary check. If our counter is less than 3, then we get to run the code inside the loop body. Nice. Once all the code is run, and only once all the code is run, the counter is increased. Everything inside the body has to run first. This is a very specific feature of for loops. Under normal circumstances, we don't have control over when the counter increases. I mean, technically we could mess with it, but it just defeats the purpose of using a for loop. Use a while loop instead if you want to do that. So the last time the body code is run, the counter will have a value of 2. It'll pass the boundary check, the number 2 will be printed to the console, and the counter will increase to 3. Then it's time for the boundary check, which in this case fails, since 3 is not less than 3. So the loop body is skipped, and execution continues on past the for loop. Some say it's still running to this day. Just kidding. What about while loops? Let's take a look. You may have noticed that some of the things that are implied or hidden away in a for loop are very in your face and explicit in a while loop. The counter declaration is clearly outside of the loop. The boundary check is clearly at the start of the loop. And very importantly, we have full control over the location and even the existence of the counter increment. We can run more code inside of our loop even after we increment the counter. We can even start with increasing the counter. But in default conditions, it's easier to just put it all at the end. But with more control comes more responsibility. Questions. What happens if we reach our counter boundary in the middle of the loop? We put our increment in the middle, so does the code after it still run? Yeah, it does. The boundary check doesn't happen magically. The code is still executed in the order it appears, and all of the loop body is run before the boundary condition is checked again. Just because the counter is increased doesn't mean the boundary check teleports. So whatever code we have after the counter increase runs, even if it calls a function or does anything else fancy. We do have some tools that we could use to force a different behavior, like break and if statements, but that's a topic for another day. Thanks for watching.